Shortly after my son died, I was really stuck in the grief pit, didn't know how to manage things. And I started to come across stories about Rwanda. I sat next to a woman at a prayer breakfast, and she told me about her family in Rwanda that had been killed, her 2 daughters and her husband. But then she told me about her new family, her new husband, her new daughter, her new son. And she told me this story joyfully. I couldn't believe it. I was still in that grief pit, that zombie phase. I couldn't believe she could show joy after what happened to her. A few weeks later, I was given the book Left to Tell by Immaculée Ilibagazi. And it's the story of a woman that survived the horrific genocide in Rwanda in 1994 with 8 other women in a small bathroom. It was an amazing story. And I started looking openly to the rest of the world to see what atrocities can people survive? How can people live through this? Over 800,000, somewhere between 800,000 to 1 million people were murdered in Rwanda, not by an invading army, but by their neighbors. And their houses were burned down, their families were destroyed. And it started speaking to me. I never really paid much attention. When the atrocities occurred, I was a young mother with small children. I wasn't paying attention, but I started paying attention. And then my friend Pam went to lunch with me one day, and she worked with Books for Africa. And she said, Kim, why don't we do a library in Rwanda for Eric? And I thought, oh my goodness, I've been thinking about Rwanda this whole time. That would be perfect. The first libraries that we built, we started out with 7. And of course, I went to the dental school and built a dental library because I was a dentist and that was my profession. But we had a law library. We had a small library in a small church, preschool library, a high school library. Over the years, the Rwandans have been my grief counselors. When we went to one village, there was a group of women, both Hutu and Tutsi, and they were together in a cooperative, which occurs all over the country. And they told me the story of after the genocide, when the Tutsi women who had lost their husbands were searching to the priest, asking for help. And he said, okay, I'll help you. We'll have some seminars. We'll talk every day. We'll try to get things back in order for you. But then the Hutu women, who had lost their husbands because they were in jail for killing the Tutsi women's husband, said, well, what about us? We need help too. We're all alone. And what the priest did next was amazing. He said, yes, I will speak to both of you, but you must come together. And so they did. They came together, and for the first few weeks, they sat on either side. They wouldn't talk to each other. They sat on either side. But over the years, they learned to work together, to come together, to become one unit, and form a cooperative where the work that they do takes care of that whole village. When I got there and they learned I had lost a son, I was in like flint. I felt so much love and compassion by these women. They just surrounded me. It was an amazing experience. Since then, we've built over 65 libraries in Rwanda. Eric Harm's memorial libraries are in Eric's name. He loved books. He used to rescue books from libraries. He particularly loved classical literature. And we've been able to do that as a legacy to him. But most importantly, the Rwanda story is a legacy to me, because they taught me that no matter what happens in my life, I can find joy again, because they did. And they turned a country in chaos to one that is one of the safest in Africa right now. It is a very wonderful place to visit. In fact, it has a safety rating like Canada. I tell my friends, well, if you're not afraid to go to Canada, don't be afraid to go to Rwanda. They have the same safety rating. And the countries surrounding them don't. But they did that for one reason. They did not want their children to suffer the same fate that they did. So they made the sacrifices now to get along, to respect each other, in spite of overwhelming odds. And I hope that the rest of the world can learn from them.